Today, since being the first class, we will start with the basics and some of the conventions that are used in circuits. So, I hope you can see the screen now. So, we'll start with some of the basics of circuit theory. So, first thing, some of the things which may be introduced to you in your physics, class 12 physics, or first year electrical and electronics. So, what is current? Or what is an electric charge? Electric charge can be defined as a physical quantity, right? So the basic charge is the charge that of an electron, which is assigned a negative sign. So this electron is considered to be having the so what is the unit of charge?
Coulomb.
Charge is measured in coulombs. And the symbol is
Capital C.
capital C. So actually current is when the charges start to flow. That is called current. So by definition, the current is the rate of flow of these charges. Okay. So we can write the relation I is equal to d by dt of this q. So by convention, the direction of movement of the positive charge is treated as the positive direction of the current. But we know that there is, for example, we are considering only metallic conductors. Okay. We are not talking about ions or charged plasma particles like that. So in circuit analysis, we are talking about metals. So the only charge carrier is electron here. So we know that the electrons are fundamentally negatively charged. So within our conductor, what is moving is the electrons. Okay. Since they are they are negatively charged. So when electrons are moving, for example, in this figure, when the electrons are seen to be moving in the right direction. So we can assume that positive charges are moving in the left direction. So the the convention to be followed is current is moving in the left direction, but actually the electrons are moving in the right direction. And the relationship is I is equal to dq by dt. Okay. So if we take current in this direction, so this is a positive direction of the current. So that is I. Then if we consider the opposite direction, then we should write it as minus I. So this minus sign indicates that the magnitude of current is the same, but the direction is in the reverse direction. Why? Because we know that the current is flowing in this direction. This is the correct direction because we had defined current as the direction of motion of the positive charges. So for this figure, the current is from right to left. This is the direction of current. So this is the positive direction. So if we take the direction in right hand, left to right manner, then we have to write it as minus I. So simply it means that if I is in this direction, then minus I is flowing in the this direction, left to right direction. Hope that concept is clear. So try to do this example. A conductor has a constant current of 5 amps. How many electrons pass a fixed point on the conductor in 1 minute? Anybody got a clue? You can.
Yes, sir.
So how to find this?
I is equal to Q by T, and then Q is equal to NE. Then we find.
Yeah. So we have written I is equal to Q by T. So we have given the current that is 5 amps So this is given as 5 amps, and the time is given as 1 minute, right? So how much charge is flowing in 1 minute? So you can write what is the total number of charges that is flowing. So we can write Q as equal to I into T, right? So I is equal to 5 amps into T is equal to 1 minute, that is 60 seconds, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is Q then?
Q is equal to any.
So this is equal to 300 coulombs, and the unit is this much coulombs is flowing for in 1 minute, right? This much coulombs is flowing in 1 minute. So the unit is coulomb per minute. So current is 5 amps, and in 1 minute this much coulombs, because each second 5 amps current is flowing, like 5 coulombs is flowing. So for 60 seconds, 5 into 60 coulombs is flowing. What is 60 second? It is 1 minute. So 300 coulombs per minute charge is flowing. And we are asked how many electrons are flowing, right? So if we can divide this Q divided by the charge of one electron, then we can get the number of electrons that are flowing, right? So what is the charge of electron? It is a constant value, scientifically found it as
1.6
1.602 into 10 power
minus
minus
90.
19 coulomb per electron. And the unit of Q is coulomb. So here we have found in coulomb per minute. Okay. So we'll get some number. So that much electrons per minute will be flowing here. Okay. So that's concept. Another electrical parameter is electric potential. So we have discussed what is charge, what is current. The next quantity is electric potential. So what is electric potential?
So work done in moving a unit charge.
Yes, yes. So you have
1.2.
studied in your first year course, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
work done to move charge is called as potential actually. So in this figure, you can see charge Q at a potential V naught. So what are these lines? These lines are called equipotential lines. It means that the voltage at along these, the potential along these regions are same. So this is V naught. This may be say Vx, and the potential at this particular point, that is here it is V1. So what if we try to move this charge Q from this potential V0 to V1 potential? We have to do some work. Okay. So we have to apply some force Fa in order to move this charge from the V0 potential to the V1 potential. So how can we define 1 volt? So if we do 1 joule of work to move this charge, assume that this charge is 1 coulomb charge. So we are moving 1 coulomb charge from one point to another point. So that is the point from 0 to 1. And how much work we are doing? We are doing 1 joule per coulomb. Then we can say that the potential difference between V1 and V2. So the potential difference between V1 and V2. how much it will be? So we are doing 1 joule of work per coulomb of charge.
V1 minus V naught.
Yeah, the potential. Okay, so that will be equal to V1 minus V naught. That will be equal to 1 volt. So that is the definition of 1 volt potential. Okay. So it is the amount of work done per coulomb of charge in order to move it from one point to another point. Okay. So if you are doing 1 joule of work to move 1 coulomb of charge from this point to this point, then we can say that the potential difference between V1 and V0 is equal to 1 volt.
1 volt.
Okay, so naturally we are doing 1 joules of work per coulomb of charge. So the other unit is joules per coulomb. Okay, so we can write 1 volt is equal to 1 joule per coulomb, another unit for volt. So the unit of voltage is volt. So when you write the full form, you write in small letters volt. Or the symbol is capital V. Okay. J stands for joule, capital C, and C stands for coulomb. C. J stands for joule. Okay. Also, one more thing you should understand here is that, so what is the potential of V1 with respect to V0? So in this scenario, what is the potential of V1 with respect to V0? Can you say? It is nothing but V1 minus V0.
Sir, V1 is at higher potential.
Yeah, V1 is at a higher potential because we are doing positive work here. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So with the potential of V1 with respect to V0 is equal to 1 volt, right? So that has become the same as that as the potential difference between 0.1 and 0.0. That is V1 minus V0 itself. Okay. So sometimes we will say that the potential at this particular point is say 5 volt, and the potential at another point is say minus 3 volt. Okay, so now what is the potential difference between these 2 points? Yeah, potential difference between these 2 points will be
8
equal
volt.
to 8 volt, like that we can say. So with respect to one point, we can say, for example, this point is A and this point is B. So with respect to B, point A is at a higher potential. Okay, so we can assign a positive sign here, right? This is a negative sign. Similarly, if you are talking with respect to A, then B is at a negative potential. So if you have to move current, or we have to move a okay, let us say we have to move an electron from point A to point B, then we have to do some amount of work, right? So that work will be done by this potential difference itself. We don't have to do any external work. Now we want to move the charges in the opposite direction, we have to do work on this system against this potential. Okay, because point A is at a higher potential. So in order to move charge from a lower potential to higher potential, we have to do some amount of work, external work. Okay. Now coming to energy. In physics, we have studied the definition of energy. That is the ability to do work. Okay. And what is power? Power is the rate at which
Energy
work
per
is
unit time.
work is done. Okay, rate of doing the work. So here it is written the rate in joules per second. So the unit of power is in joules per second. The rate in joules per second at which energy is transferred in electrical power in watts. That is electrical power. Okay. So the another unit is watts. Okay, or capital W. So when you come to electrical circuits, what is power? So the instantaneous power is equal to the product of instantaneous voltage V into the instantaneous current I. So that is how we can find power. So we can write, so the unit of P is watts. So on the left hand side we have P. So and the unit of voltage is volt. So 1 volt into, and the unit of current is ampere. So actually 1 watt is 1 volt into 1 ampere, right? So we can have another unit which is equal to volt into ampere, right? So when we come to electrical circuits, we can express the power as the product of voltage into the current. Since we have P is equal to V into I, instantaneous power is product of the voltage and the current. The unit of voltage is, or the potential is volt, and the unit of current is ampere. So we can have a unit V into A as the unit of power, or we can simply call it as watts. Okay. So that's the real power we are talking about. Another unit is joules per second. So we have already defined 1 volt is the amount of work done per coulomb. Okay. So 1 volt is nothing but 1 joule per coulomb, and we have defined ampere as number of coulombs
Per
per
second.
second, right? So it is 1 coulomb per second. So we can write the unit joules per second as the unit of power by multiplying these two quantities. A resistor has a potential difference of 50 volt across its terminal, and 120 coulomb of charge per minute passes a fixed point. So under these conditions, at what rate is electric energy converted to heat? So this is a symbol for a resistor or resistance. So we have 50 volt across this resistor, and we have 120 coulombs per minute is flowing in this direction, right? So what is the current?
2 ampere.
Yeah, 2 ampere current is flowing. And we are asked what is the electric energy converted to heat. So how can we find?
Sir, by Ohm's law, we find resistance, then heat is I square R.
Okay. So here we have written previously what is the heat that is generated. So we can express in joules per second. So we know how much coulomb is flowing per minute and what is the potential difference in joules per coulomb, right? So we can write the power P is equal to V into I. So the unit of power is,
Watt
yeah, or joules per
per second.
second, right? So here the unit is joules per coulomb, and the unit of I is, so this is for V and this is for I, so coulombs per second. So power is the product of, so we are having,
Potential 50 volt.
yeah, potential is equal to 50 volt that is applied, and the voltage is, sorry, the
Current 2
current is
ampere.
2 ampere. Okay, so that will be equal to 100 watts. So 100 joules of electrical energy is converted to heat in
1 second.
1 second. Okay, so rate means per second. Or you can do the other method also, like you said, we can, since we are given the voltage and the current directly, it's better to go for this relationship.
Okay,
P is
sir.
equal to product of voltage into current. Okay, shortcut method. Now, some conventions are used when we do circuit analysis.
Sir,
We had, yes.
kindly zoom it. I'm not able to see that.
Let me see whether it is zoomable or not. Okay, no need to worry. Actually, I will explain what is written here.
Okay, sir.
So let me first allow those who joined late to talk also. Some settings in the meeting. Okay, so now everyone is given permission to talk. You can input. If you don't have any doubts, you can mute. It's better to listen through headphone than directly through mobile, so that feedback will not be there. Okay, I will read what is written here. To distinguish between constant and time varying quantities, capital letters are employed for the constant quantity and lowercase for the variable quantity. It means that we use capital letter for representing constants. Constants means time invariant. Okay. For example, in if you are telling that a constant current of 10 ampere is flowing, then we represent this current using the symbol capital I. Okay. Then we use the lowercase or small letter for time varying quantities. Okay. Or we can say that they are the instantaneous quantities. Example, I can say that current I, the instantaneous current I is equal to some function of time, like say f of t is equal to 10 sine omega t ampere. Also, this is the small symbol is used for representing the instantaneous value in terms of exponent function also. For example, we can say v is equal to 15 e power minus 80 volt. So these functions are functions of time, right? So whenever we want to represent instantaneous quantities, we use the small letters, small I, small v. Whenever we want to say that a constant current is flowing, then we use the capital letters. Okay. So normally DC, in DC, the quantities are remaining the same, right? The current or voltage is going to remain the same. So we use the capital letters. Another example I can say is when we want to say the power, CP in DC. The DC power is the product of the voltage and the current. So we are using capital V and capital I. Right. So whereas when we want to say the instantaneous power in AC, we use the small p, which is the product of the small v into the small I. Am I audible or any disturbance is coming in here?
Sir, background noise is there.
Background noise. Now background noise is stopped.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So understood the sign convention. So when we use the instantaneous voltage and instantaneous current, we use the small case. Okay. So that is written for constant and variable functions. Okay. Some exercise, electrical energy is converted to heat at the rate of 7.56 kilojoules per minute in a resistor which has 270 coulomb per minute passing through. What is the voltage difference across the resistor terminals?
P is equal to VI.
Here as voltage. Okay. So we can cross multiply that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have the relationship P is equal to P into I, or we can write V is equal to P by I. So what is power? 7.56 kilojoules per minute. How did we know that this is power? Because we are talking about energy converted to heat, and that rate is 7.56 kilojoules per minute. Okay, so we could identify that this is the power. And what is the current that is flowing? It is 270 coulombs per minute. Okay.
Sir, 27.77 volt.
Okay. So this will approximately come to equal to 28, and the unit is
Volt or joule per
yeah,
coulomb.
joule per coulomb, which is nothing but 28 volt. Okay. So for kilo you have to multiply into 10 power 3. Okay. A, a certain circuit element has current I is equal to 2.5 sine omega t. See, I is written in small case because we are talking about the instantaneous current here, where omega is the called the angular frequency in radians per second, and the voltage difference V is equal to 45 sine omega t between its terminals. We are asked to find what is the average power and the energy transferred in one period of the sine function.
Average power is equal to VRMS into IRMS.
That is the RMS power.
Okay, sir.
So how can we find the average power? Power average, P average is nothing but the total work done. So divided by divided by the
So
time, right?
charge time. Sorry.
So what is the work done here? So we have to do some integral, right? We know only the instantaneous power. So what is the instantaneous power? P. P is nothing but small p. That is the instantaneous power is nothing but small v into small I. So small v is written given as 45 sine omega t, and small I is 2.5 sine omega t, right? So this is the instantaneous work that is done, right? Now if we can integrate this instantaneous power with for the time for the entire cycle, right? So we are asked to find what is the power transfer for one period of sine function. So the time period is one full cycle.
0 to 2 pi.
Yes. So theta varies from 0 to 2 pi. So what is theta? This is theta is equal to omega t. So when theta varies from 0 to 2 pi, how does t vary? T is going to vary from 0 to 2 pi by omega, right? So total work done is the integral of p dt, and we have to integrate this for one complete cycle. Okay, so theta is equal to 0 to 2 pi. So that is for theta. When we write integrate with respect to t, so this has to be from 0 to 2 pi by omega. So we will integrate this quantity. So we can write this is nothing but integral 0 to 2 pi by omega small v into small I. What is this? 45 into 2.5.
Yes, sir. 112.5.
112.5 sin omega t into sin omega t will be sin square omega t. Integrate it from 0 to 2 pi by omega, and with respect to t, remember integral.
Yes, sir.
You can use the cosine, like cos sin square to cos 2 theta is equal to 1 minus 2 sin square theta. So we can write the general expression like sin square integral of sin square ax is equal to
1 minus.
okay after integrating
Okay, sir.
x by 2 minus sine twice ax by 2 divided by 4a. Okay. So here we have a is equal to omega and x is equal to t here, right? So you can integrate this using this relationship, and you will get the work done in terms of omega. So we will substitute the upper limit, that is 2 pi by omega, in place of t here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is 112.5 times t by 2 minus sine 2 omega t by 4 omega 0 to 2 pi by omega. So on simplification, you will get this as equal to 112.5 pi by omega. Unit will be in millijoules. Okay. Now we can write what is the power. Okay. So once we get the total power, sorry, total work done, then we can write the power using this relationship. The average power is equal to total work divided by time taken. Okay. So the average power, P average, will be equal to the total work that is 112.5 pi by omega divided by, and what is the time taken? So we have the signal, which is a sine function. Okay. And we have integrated it to find the power. Okay, so this could be the voltage or current signal, V or I. So this is 0 pi into pi. So what is the total time duration taken? So we have integrated it from 0 to 2 pi by omega, right? So that is the total time duration taken. So we have integrated from t is equal to 0 to t is equal to 2 pi by omega. So this omega,
56.25.
yeah, omega will get cancelled. So we'll get the average power as equal to 56.25 milliwatts. Okay. Another exercise. A unit of energy commonly used by electric utility companies is the kilowatt hour. Electric utility means like in our energy meter, we say that how many units of electricity is consumed per month. So 1 unit is equal to 1 kilowatt hour. Energy meter means the meter that is located by the electricity board. So we are asked how much joules, how many joules are in 1 kilowatt hour. So that's the first part. So can you find that?
Yes, sir.
How can you find out?
Three 3.6 into 10 to the power 6 joule.
Yeah, correct. So what is 1 kilowatt hour? 1 kilo means that is 1 into 10 power 3 that much of joules per second, right? Because the unit of watts is, or I will write,
Joule per second.
okay, I will split this and right. So 1 kilowatt hour is equal to 1 kilowatt into 1 hour. I can write like this, right? So what is 1 kilowatt? So 1 into 10 power 3, that is kilo. And what is joules per second? And what is 1 hour? So 1 into 60 minutes into 60 seconds. This much of seconds. So when you multiply all these, 60 into 60 is 3600 into 10 power 3. Second will get cancelled. So we'll have what is remaining is joules. So this is nothing but 3600 kilojoules, or you can adjust the decimal place towards the left here and rewrite this as 3.6 megajoules. Because we always write in SI, in engineering problems, we always write joules or kilojoules or megajoules for higher, larger quantities. Okay. For lower quantities, we go for milli. That is, if we are having into 10 power minus 3 or microjoules, that is into 10 power minus 6. So kilo means into 10 power 3. Mega means 1 into 10 power 6. So always try to express your answer like this quantity. Okay. It means that it is not advisable to write this as, I can also write this as 360 into 10 power 4. It is not advisable to write like this. Rather, you prefer into 10 power 3, 10 power 6, 10 power 9, or 10 power minus 3 like that. Okay. The second part is, we are having a color television set rated at 75 watts and operating from 7 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. So what total energy does this represent in kilowatt hour in and in megajoules? So how much energy is consumed by this television when it is operating from 7 p.m. to
So
11:30 p.m.
time in hours, 4.5 hours.
Yeah, 4.5 hours. For 4.5 hours, 75 watts is operating. So how many units are consumed? So kilowatt hour means how many units are consumed by this TV.
75 into 4.5, then it will be 0.3375 kilowatt hours.
Yeah. So energy, the energy is, so we have understood that the unit of energy is nothing but watt hour. So we are having the 75 watt TV is working from 7 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. It means 4.5 hours. So we are having 4.5 hours, right? So that will be equal to 337.5 watt hour. Okay, but we are asked how many units are consumed. So electric utility companies measure the units in kilowatt hour, right? So how much kilowatt hour? This is watt hour. So adjusting the decimal, we can write this as 0.3375 kilowatt hour. right? And here we have already defined that 1 kilowatt hour is nothing but 3.6 megajoules, right? So
Direct multiply.
yeah, you can directly multiply. We have already derived that. So energy in kilowatt hour, we can write as 0.3375 into 3.6. So that will come to 1.215 megajoule.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these exercises are done to make you familiar with the units of potential, which is nothing but joules per coulomb, the current, which is nothing but the joules per second, power, which we can express in joules per second, energy, which we can express either in kilowatt hour or watt hour or megajoules or joules, etc. Okay. The last exercise we'll do is related to a battery. So these two examples are we come across in our day-to-day life. That is energy meter. At our home, we can calculate how much energy is consumed. Similarly, most of you may be having inverter in their homes or UPS attached to their computer. So inside that we will have a battery. Also in your mobile phones also you will be having batteries. So how is the for inverters we use the 12 volt battery. Car also is auto battery means automobile battery, car or motorcycle is rated according to ampere hour. So how is it measured? Ampere hour, right? So the rating is in ampere hour. And the question is a 70 ampere hour battery is capable of discharging at the rate of 3.5 ampere for 20 hours. So what is the meaning of that? If the capacity of the battery is 70 ampere hour, then that battery is capable of delivering 3.5 ampere for 20 hours, right? Because 70 is nothing but 3.5 70 ampere hour is nothing but 3.5 ampere into 20, right?
Yes, sir.
So what is this quantity? This is nothing but a measure of the energy that is stored in the battery. Okay, the total charge that is stored in the battery. So once this battery is charged to this much energy, then it is capable of delivering this much of current for 20 hours. If we draw double current, so if we draw 7 ampere current, then it can deliver only for 10 hours. That is half the time. Because we have doubled the current, so we have to half the time, like that. So since this is a 12 volt battery, it is capable of delivering this 3.5 ampere at 12 volt. Okay. Similarly, it is capable of delivering 7 ampere, twice the current at 12 volt. If you draw half the current of 3.5 ampere, half of this, then it is capable of delivering 1.75, sorry, 1.75 ampere for 40 hours. So that's the math that we have to do. So this is the ideal case. We are assuming that whatever charge we are giving to the battery, that much charge we can take from the battery. That is the assumption. We are assuming that there is no internal resistance, no losses happening inside the battery. So under this situation, we are asked the voltage remains a constant. That is, there is no voltage drop, but that is not the real case. When battery is getting charged, the voltage will go above 12 volt. When battery gets discharged, it will go below the 12 volt. So we are assuming the ideal case of voltage, terminal voltage is remaining the constant, and we have to obtain the energy and power delivered in a complete discharge of this battery. So energy,
So it is power into time.
first we can tell the power,
Into
because the
seconds.
battery is delivering 3.5 amps current at 12 volt terminal voltage. So you can say what is the power that is coming. So we have already written power is nothing but product of voltage into the current.
Current.
So we are having a 12 volt battery and is delivering current of 3.5 ampere, right? So 12 into 3.5 is nothing but 42 unit is watt, right? Or joules per second, another unit. Or you can write V into a volt ampere also you can write. Okay. Now what is the energy that is stored? So this battery is giving this much 42 watts of power. That is that much joules per second, right? Per second it is giving like this. So this battery 70 Ah battery is capable of delivering 3.5 ampere for how many hours?
20
Capable of,
hours.
yeah, 20 hours, right? It is capable of delivering this much current for 20 hours. So each second it is delivering 42 watts. So what is the total energy that is stored in the battery? E into the total time, right? Power into
That is 72,000 seconds.
yeah. So power is 42 into time is 20 hours, or 20 hours is 20 into 60 into 60. So that much joules, amount of joule we can get. I got this as
0.024 megajoule.
3.02 into 10 power 6 joules. Okay, it is 3.02 megajoule. Now what happens? So this is part A. Now part B says that what happens when we discharge this battery, repeat for a discharge rate of 7 ampere. That is this case. Now the battery is, we are drawing more current from the battery. That is twice the initial current. So what will happen? The battery will drain within 10 hours. It will completely discharge in 10 hours. So it will take half the time. So we are not changing the terminal voltage. The terminal voltage is remaining the same, 12 volts, and we are drawing twice the current. So what happens to the power? The new power is twice of the initial power. Okay. P is the initial power. The new power P dash is equal to twice of P. So that will be 84 watts. Or you can use this equation also. Instead of 3.5, you replace the power as 12 into 7. So that will be 84 watt. What about energy? Is nothing but P dash into the new time. So P dash is now doubled. What about the time? Time has become half. It has become 10 hours instead of 20 hours. So again, you will get the energy as the same, that is 3.02 megajoules. So the energy is not going to change here, right? Because the battery is stored only 70, is having a capacity of only 70 ampere hour. So we can draw only that much theoretically. So this is the theoretical assumption. Theoretically, we can draw only that much amount of power from that much energy from the battery, but we can draw more power. When we draw more power, means the battery will die out very fast. Time goes on decreasing as we draw more and more current. Okay. So if you draw less current, then the time is going to increase because we have the same energy stored in the battery. So that's the relationship. Moving on. The next topic is what is a passive and active element. So can you define what is a passive element and an active element?
Sir, elements which delivers energy are called active elements.
Yes.
Mm,
Example, battery.
yes, sir. We
So
can say BJT.
we can say that elements that are capable of increasing the power level,
Yes, sir.
okay, of a signal are called active elements. For example, we can call the BJT, the transistor, as also an active element because it is capable of boosting the power level.
Yes, sir.
So, okay. Another example is battery. Because of the energy stored in the battery, it is capable of boosting the energy level of the signal. Whereas passive elements, they can only either, they are not capable of boosting the energy. Okay.
Neither store or dissipate.
Yeah. For example, a resistor is capable of absorbing the power only. Whereas an ideal inductor or capacitor will not absorb power. Okay, they will absorb power
Mm,
in one cycle, then they will discharge in the next cycle,
yes.
return the power. So an electrical device is represented by a circuit diagram or network constituted from series and parallel arrangement of two terminal elements. So by two terminal elements, what is mean? It means is as this. So the general symbol of an electrical of a passive element is like this. Okay. So this element can represent a resistor or an inductor L or a capacitor C. So generally we can draw like this. This could be a combination of these resistor, inductor, etc. In which case we call it as the impedance. Okay. Then we have the symbols also that we will see in the coming slides. So a two-terminal element is general form is shown like this. So this is a general form. So one terminal like this, another terminal will be marked like this. Then active elements are voltage or current sources which are able to supply energy to the network. Okay, they are capable of boosting the power level, or how would they boost the power level? By supplying energy to the network. Examples are resistors, inductors, and capacitors. Passive are examples for passive elements which take energy from the source and either convert it to another form. For example, in resistor, they absorb
It
the electrical
converts.
energy and convert it to heat energy.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Whereas for inductors and capacitors, they store it in an electric or magnetic field. Capacitors store the energy in electric field. So this
Or
is for capacitor, and
series field.
inductors store it is in the form of magnetic field. Okay. So we can have a voltage source which is labeled like, so this is a symbol for a voltage source. Okay. So one form is like this. So we have two types of voltage sources. One is called a independent source. So how do you represent an independent source? It is illustrated by a circle. Okay, so when we draw a circle and then you mark the polarity plus minus like this, and we write the value of the voltage here, V. For example, we can write, say, V is equal to V sine omega t volt. So this V is the unit. Okay, then this is indicating that it is an independent source. So what is an independent source? A voltage source that is not affected by changes in the connected circuit. It means that this voltage is not going to depend on anything, any other parameters of this circuit. It may be a function of time, or it may be a constant. For example, V is equal to, say, 10 volt, I am saying. Why caps V? Because it's a constant. It is not going to depend on time. Why I wrote small v here? It's because I have written V as a function of time. So this is the instantaneous voltage, whereas this V is the steady state
Constant.
voltage, like a DC voltage. So when we draw a circle, it means that it is a independent source. Another voltage form of voltage source is called dependent voltage source, which is represented by this symbol. So a dependent voltage source is shown by a diamond shaped symbol, and we mark the polarity here also, plus minus, to show that it's a voltage source. And here we can write the voltage, say V is equal to, say, twice V1, where V1 is another voltage. Another example is I can write V is equal to twice or thrice of I2, where I2 is another current that is flowing through some other elements. Okay, so what it means is that this voltage across this terminal or this voltage source is a function that is dependent on voltage of some other parts of the circuit. This example means that the voltage across the voltage source is a function that is going to depend on current that is flowing through some other parts of the circuit, like thrice I2, like that. Okay, so that's the concept of independent source and dependent source. So we will come see this more detail when we see examples, when we solve network problems. Similarly, we can have
Sir,
current sources also.
one
Yes.
doubt I have.
Yes.
Sir, how dependent sources are constructed and practically?
Dependent sources we can construct. For example, you can use microprocessors. For example, you have a sensor. For example, mm, imagine that you have an air conditioner in one room.
Yes, sir.
Or okay, let us say now it is winter, right? So let us say it is a heater, a room heater, that is. So you know that a room heater is nothing but a coil through which electricity is passed. The coil has got some resistance that is happening, right? Some
Yes, sir.
resistance will be there. Okay, so when current is passing through this resistor, there will be some heat dissipation given as I square of the current into resistance, or we can write as V into I or V square by R. So some heat is produced in this. So we design a system such that whenever the temperature is too low in the room, we need to develop a more higher voltage. So we put a say, for example, when temperature, we know that most metallic substances, when we increase the temperature, its resistance will increase. So when we drop the temperature, then its resistance will come down. Right, that is called positive temperature coefficient of resistance. So we somehow we incorporate such a material in series with this connection. So whenever the outside temperature is very low, then the resistance of this series connection, I will draw this so you will better understand. So this is our coil. It will have some resistance, and I am attaching another circuit element in series with this. So this will, and here we are applying the supply voltage, right? Here we are having the supply voltage. So whenever the temperature is, so this is the temperature, the resistance of this device is going to depend. This is like a sensor, let us say like a sensor, whose resistance is going to depend on the ambient temperature. So when this temperature is dropping, the resistance of this thing is going to drop. So when the resistance drops here, what happens to the voltage that is coming across this our heater? It will increase.
Will decrease.
No, this resistance of this is dropping. So this you will understand when we discuss on the series elements. So what will happen is that in the coming slides, I'm planning to discuss on that, so you will better understand this. So then we will come back to this example. I will, if you remind me.
Yes, sir. I
Okay.
will.
So actually, the resistance will drop here, so that more voltage will come across this resistor. Okay. So we say, let me say that this is V dash, which will be greater than the initial value. Initially, when the resistance was high, the voltage was lesser. Say it was V1, and now it has become equal to V2. So more voltage will come across this here. So V dash can take the values at two instances corresponding to say R1 dash and R2 dash, where R1 dash is greater than R2 dash. So more voltage will come across, so that more amount of heat will be produced by this heater. Okay, that is the our requirement, right? When the temperature outside is falling, we need more amount of heat generated, right? Because the rate at which uh, cold is coming inside the room or the heat is flowing out of the room is increasing, right? Because of the temperature difference. So our heater should be capable of generating more amount of heat per unit time. You understand the logic?
Yes, sir.
And
I
the outside
understand.
temperature is falling down means more heat is going to, required to be produced per time. Otherwise, our room temperature will also start falling down.
Yes, sir.
So we have to match the rate at which heat is produced inside our room to that at which the heat is getting going outside of our room. Heat is flowing from our room to outside because outside temperature is lower. Okay. So what is happening is that we can see that this V dash is a variable quantity. It is going to vary with respect to the temperature. So we can write this V dash as equal to a function of this outside temperature. Right. So how we can represent this? In circuit analysis, we can represent this by replacing this by a dependent voltage source like this for analysis purpose. So let me say this is the AC because we are using AC voltage. So we have not seen the symbol here so far. Okay. Now this is replaced by this voltage source where we can write the voltage V dash is nothing but some function of time. Sorry, some function of the temperature, the outside temperature or the temperature difference. Understood?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So actually we are representing this voltage V dash with is by this diamond symbol to represent that there is a voltage that is going to depend on the some other parameter. In this case is a temperature. Okay, so we'll conclude this because I have another lecture from 8 o'clock onwards. So we'll continue this in the coming lecture. We'll see the current elements and passive elements. So tomorrow morning, again 6:30, we'll start. Then
Yes, sir.
afterwards, if required, we'll increase it to 5:30 because we need to go more faster, more amount of topics. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So any other doubts? Anybody has put any question in the chat? Okay, no chat messages. So we'll see you tomorrow morning. Okay, I will schedule it. Okay.
Yes, sir. Shall we leave?
Yeah, yeah. I am ending the meeting.